Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to Valorant News and to your latest Valorant rostermania update. Big changes right now all around the world. Na'Vi potentially signing the former FPX lineup, we'll see that in a second. But also Sentinels denying it, they're bringing in former guard IGL Valin, but potentially changes still on the line with Marved also on their radar. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Loads of new subs the last few days, not even far off 30k now, so keep on going towards that one, baby. Let's crack straight on with things. So firstly, all partnered VCT teams now can sign players starting today. So this is from 9 AM in their relative time zones. That is, of course, already passed in EMEA. It's passing in a few hours' time in North America for Los Angeles. And of course, Seoul in Korea, that's already gone as well. So officially, as of now, teams can sign players. Announcements can start to happen once contracts are signed, but that does not necessarily mean they will. I'd say probably we get a few things that happen this week, but really in terms of teams actually getting solidified, it's going to be a good couple of weeks. October the 15th, I believe, is the soft cutoff date for when the teams have to say to right, yes, this is what we're looking at doing, but they don't necessarily have to lock things in. But the top teams will be trying to, because like you need to, with big name free agents on the market, you've got to try and lock them down quickly. If you wait, if you rest on your laurels and don't do much for the next week or so, then other teams are going to steal all those players away. So you've got to move quickly if you are one of these franchises. Now, this came out from Na'Vi last night. Now, this leak is almost kind of too good to be true in that it seems like it's almost intentional. But still, today we got the Na'Vi, kind of the invite here for Na'Vi. So they got their thing in the box that tells them that they're an official partner member for next season. So pretty cool, of course, legendary organization in esports history and also certainly in the Counter-Strike side and in the CIS region in general. Now, apparently, based on, I believe it's actually coming up right here in the video when he hides inside here and they're chasing him down. And as you guys can see in the bottom left-hand side, there is an Angel jersey here on the floor. Now, it's strategically placed, right? Because, I mean, if you think about this, right, the camera placement here, like, surely the cameraman would have noticed if there was an Angel jersey. And it's also kind of very strategically kind of placed it sideways such that it is definitely in shot. So I guess they intended this leak to come out. But still, it is pretty cool, right, if indeed this is the case that Angel, because, like, if Angel's getting signed to Na'Vi, then you would imagine the entire FPX team is getting signed. Maybe they have another idea, they want to change one or two players out, but like I kind of doubt it, right? It would make sense for Na'Vi because I think they were going to keep a couple of their top players, but now they decided to let those players go. So I imagine that Na'Vi are at least heavily considering, if not has already been confirmed really internally, that they will sign Angel plus probably the entire former FPX team. That is really cool to me, especially because of Na'Vi's team in Counter-Strike, to also bring in the former FPX lineup, hopefully as a 5, because we know how difficult it is to retain these lineups. There was initially some talks that maybe TSM, if they were to get into partnership, they would buy the entire former OpTic team. There was also talks about the fact that if G2 got into North America, they were going to buy the entire XSET team. And as it stands, OpTic, despite potentially could still stay together, that seems highly unlikely based on the various contract situations that are going on. And of course, certain teams are going to want one player and not necessarily others because they've got other good players for their lineups, for example. So it's cool to see some teams, at least from pre-franchising, hopefully staying together, and FPX may be one of them, but not under FPX, but instead under Na'Vi, which I think would be really cool to see. So one to stay tuned for sure. Let's talk North America then, because of course yesterday we saw Zellsis, Cloud9, what is going on there? George Geddes reckons there's a lot going on in North America, as in they're building some really stacked teams. And who knows if they're stacking any of these teams with, let's say, European talent, because there has been some talk about, okay, certain players from Europe, could they come to North America? Like some of the Liquid guys or whatever, is that a possibility as well? So like there are just so many options for these teams to consider right now. It's actually difficult, I imagine, being a general manager. Now, we saw this clip, of course, yesterday where Soju said, Zellsis, can't wait to see you join Cloud9. And I did think it was a little bit strange just because there was no way that he would have thought the announcement had already happened. Now, he did say, okay, this was a joke. He DM'd me after who he's potentially playing for, but it could be Cloud9, so it kind of looks like a leak. So, yeah, we believe Cloud9, maybe Sen are the options that Zellsis has, or 100T, who really knows. But yeah, Zellsis has, we believe, a couple of offers from tier 1 teams. Cloud9, I do think, is one of them, but of course, when this clip came out, the contracts can't even be signed, so he can't have been there. Now, whether Soju's kind of doing damage control here, and he's kind of saying, yeah, this is just a joke, I was just messing around, guys, definitely nothing to this, like, to me, it still seems pretty likely that Zellsis could end up here in this Cloud9 team. But I just thought I'd mention this, right, because he's kind of denying the fact that this leak was even a thing, and that we've seen other leaks get denied. For example, one that we'll see in a second here with Sentinels. Now, just to say this, because Richard Lewis did a great episode last night with Ye, going through pretty much, well, a lot of stuff, right, especially around what's going on presently with franchising. A couple of interesting things from this I'll just mention. Firstly, the possibility that they stay together as a 5. Like, Ye hasn't necessarily ruled it out as impossible. They did have some offers to do this, and he actually said, I believe, in this episode that he had an offer, like the entire OpTic roster had an offer to play in Ascension under a different organization for, I imagine, a lot of money and play in the tier 2 scene. Now, you might think, you know what, that's a pretty good idea. You play as the team of 5, you get through Ascension next year, you qualify for the Partnership League, but look, it's not that easy, right? You can't necessarily forego the opportunity to play in the Partnership League as one of the best players in the world, and I don't know, you don't really want to be doing that because there's no guarantees you qualify anyway, right? There's going to be a lot of good teams down there, and maybe the OpTic team falls off or whatever, so I think you've just got to take your opportunities you have in the tier 1 side, but he did say they got an offer to do that, and haven't, of course, they're not going to do that, right? Their intention is to stay in tier 1 wherever they possibly can, hopefully as a team, but that's probably not going to happen. But he does say it's a possibility, but it's just because all the players are on different contract lengths, like Crashies and Victor unrestricted free agents, Ye of course restricted, as with the other guys, so they're going to end up elsewhere. I think it's like a 0.1% chance this team stays together next year, but of course, as he says, there's still a chance technically. Now, this is the Sentinel stuff that is definitely worthy of note. So Grikers, who like I've never heard of, I was like, okay, who is this guy? Comes out and says, source, Sentinels to acquire Valorant star Valin. Valin was the IGL for the Guard, an esports team that failed to make it through franchising. Like, weird phrasing, right? You wouldn't really see a proper journalist say things in this phrasing. The way he says, like, an esports team that failed to make it through to franchising, first of all, it's not even technically franchising, it's partnership. So, like, a proper well-sourced journalist would have definitely phrased this in a different way. If the deal goes through, he will be the IGL for the upcoming Sentinels roster. Now, I kind of like this from this guy, because obviously he's just made this account. If you guys look at his account here, actually, like, I think Valin replies, Dapr says, welcome, thank you, teammate, he says. But if we look at his account here, like, he's got 200 followers now, but he had like 20 followers yesterday, joined in September 2022, and obviously this guy doesn't necessarily have too much validity behind him, but he did choose a particular leak to do that actually is semi-believable, right? Which is kind of what's good about this leak, is that, okay, well, first of all, it's not a leak, there's no sources, I believe, that are saying this type of stuff, but at least, like, it's something that you might be able to believe. It's not like a completely random out of left field thing, like, Scream becoming the IGL for Sentinels, but this is at least, like, semi-believable, right? So therefore, people were, immediately believing it, but a lot of the journalists are like, yeah, like, there's nothing to this, as Bo says, try not to make it obvious, this is a fake account challenge, absolutely impossible, and then even George Geddes goes on to say, this is not true, so he believes there's nothing going on here, and of course, even Sentinels themselves came out and said this, account with 30 followers, Barack Obama is the next Sentinels IGL, what, no way, so this is kind of what I was getting at here, but it is interesting that Sentinels tweeted this, because they were effectively denying this, right? They're saying, wow, look, this account with 30 followers, that is very clearly referencing what we just saw, that had about 30 followers yesterday, saying this kind of outlandish claim, and then effectively denying this, right? So yes, to me, like, Valin, don't get me wrong, good IGL for the Guard, no doubt about it. Is he a top 5 IGL in the world that North America necessarily wants? Not necessarily so sure. I think he's going to be on one of the top tier 2 teams. Whether the Guards stay in Valorant or not, that's an option there. So, but look, still, that doesn't necessarily rule out the possibility of Sen making some changes, and also to their IGL position. I know a lot of you guys were saying in the comment section, and I do agree personally that if I was making the calls over at Sentinels, I would highly consider moving on from ShahZaM as the IGL. I think there are other and probably better options you could get in that role. There's been a lot of drama around that even lately with Zoms and the like over the last couple of months. There's guys like Xander, but there is also guys like Valin as well, right? So it is an interesting discussion there, whether their IGL position changes. That is a big question mark, but also what happens to the rest of their team. Now, Raucus, their coach as he presently stands, was on stream last night saying that he believes that Marved would be the perfect guy. He is probably pushing internally to get Marved on this roster.
This is my own bias, but I also think there's no one even close to being comparable. I would go after Marved. Marved is by far the second best player, and he's by far the best Silks player in the game. You go after Marved and you get him, no matter, you give him what he wants. Not only is he so incredibly good at the game, he's so good for marketing, he's so good for content, and he's just a good teammate. Like, why wouldn't you want all of these qualities as a person? Like, it doesn't, or as like a player. If I'm like an org and I have any kind of common sense, any competence, I'm highly investing in them.
Of course, not as the IGL for the team, but just as Marved, as one of the best players in his role in the entire world. Now, the thing that definitely does throw a spanner in the works of this potential move is if TenZ was to stay, as you would expect that he would stay, the friction and the drama between those guys for a couple of years ago. I believe Marved made a couple of statements about Kaide that TenZ didn't necessarily take so likely to, and as he says here, I just want to say quickly, I apologize privately for some stupid things I said recently to my fans. I'm sorry. Promise to do better from now on. So yes, this is kind of in the early days. There was some drama between these guys, I believe, even when TenZ was still on Cloud9, and yeah, probably there's still a bit of beef and friction between the two of them if Marv was to join Sen. So for that reason, maybe not the perfect situation, but it's still interesting that Raucus is being very open about the possibility of trying to get Marved. Like, look, he says his own personal bias, but like he would make that move in a heartbeat if he could. So just shows Sen do want to make changes. They will be making changes. Whether they make changes to their IGL, I suppose, is a question there, because Sen have kind of denied they're getting Val in, but whether they've denied making any change to that role seems kind of unlikely, right? And also Sick, of course, great player when he was on the Sentinels team, but it seems difficult to see Sick after the few months that he's had. Maybe the recency bias is too strong within the scene, but I wonder what's going to happen to Sick. He's certainly proven, but of course he's been out for the last few months, so maybe he has to work his way back up to that level to some degree in the tier 2 side before he gets another shot, who knows, but I'm sure he's going to be on the Sentinels radar. He is literally on the roster, and even as ShahZaM says, streamer streaming, so we shall see. I know people have talked for quite some time about ShahZaM, like, is he going to eventually get dropped, right, as the IGL? Are they going to bring in a new IGL? Like, what's their situation there? Is VALORANT actually a realistic option? Like, or are some of the other names that are in consideration also possibilities? And is ShahZaM already kind of eyeing up the move into full-time content? Because if he was to get dropped from Sentinels as a player, like, he would have the option to stay there as a streamer, right? And does he really want to forgo that opportunity to go and be an IGL elsewhere, especially if it's in tier 2? Seems unlikely, but very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button and tell us on YouTube, God, this is a good video. I'd also like you to see it as well, and I've grown the competitive Valorant community. Thank you as always, take care, and I'll see you next time.